Hello, this is Ben Television News Roundup, a compilation of major stories in the week ending. I am Tunde Alabi. Thank you for being part of the program today. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has charged the Conservative-led government to secure a good deal for Britain and give investors the confidence to continue in the country. Speaking during the Prime Minister's question time, the Prime Minister, Theresa May, said that her government will deliver what the British people voted for as Brexit.
On the Brexit negotiations, I might remind the right honourable gentleman, that before December, Labour cast doubt on whether we would get a joint report agreed. We did. Before March, he cast doubt on whether we'd get an implementation period, and we did. But I wanted, Mr. Speaker, if I may, just to respond to the comment that the right honourable gentleman made about the very important subject of providing those who were the victims of the Grenfell Tower fire with permanent homes. Just so that I can make clear to the House, 203 households were in need of a new home. Every household has received an offer of temporary or permanent accommodation. 183 have accepted an offer of a permanent home. But I just wanted to say this, because it isn't just about the buildings. It's not just about the bricks and mortar of a home. People who suffered that night are having to rebuild their lives. Many of them lost somebody, members of their families with whom they had been living and making a home for years. They lost all their possessions. They lost their mementos. They lost anything that reminds them of the person they loved. When they move into that new home, they will be restarting their lives. And I wanted to pay tribute to all the victims of the Grenfell Tower fire for the strength and dignity that they have shown.
Mr. Speaker, I too pay tribute to the families for all that they've been through and all the fortitude they've shown. But sadly, the reality is that some of them have still not got a permanent home to move into. It's very important for the mental well-being of everybody to have somewhere they can call home and they know it is their home. Mr. Speaker, last week the Prime Minister confirmed we would leave the European Union in March 2019 and the transition would end in December 2020. But we now know the government is working on the basis that transition could continue for a further year till December 2021. Could you be clearer today? Which December are we talking about?
No, the right honourable gentleman is quite wrong in his, the way he has put this to the House, so let me be clear to the House. I think what he's trying to talk about is the backstop arrangement that we have agreed. Let's be very clear what this backstop is. This is an arrangement that will be put in place in the circumstances in which it is not possible to put the future new customs arrangement in place by the 1st of January 2021. And it is there to ensure that if those new customs arrangements are not in place, that we are able to continue on the basis that there is no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. We are working to make sure that the future customs arrangements overall deal with the issue of ensuring no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. We don't want the backstop to be necessary. We are working to ensure that we can have our future customs arrangements in place on the 1st of January 2021.
Jeremy Corbyn! Mr. Speaker, I'm not really sure whether it's a backstop or a backslide that she's talking about here. Last week I asked the Prime Minister, and I'm sorry to bring this subject up again because it's probably quite painful for her, but when is the government's Brexit white paper going to be published? Because she did say it would be published before the June EU Council summit. Is that still the case?
No, I didn't actually say that. I said the white paper would be published, and we will be publishing it. We will be bringing ministers together. Just calm down. We will be bringing ministers together after the June Council, and the white paper will be published thereafter.
Jeremy Corbyn! Mr. Speaker, it gets ever more confusing because at the weekend, the Cabinet Office Secretary told the BBC that it would not now be until July. Can I offer a solution to her? instead of worrying about this white paper on which the Cabinet would have to agree, how about making it a green paper in which all their disagreements are in the open and we can all make a comment on it? But if the government does not, Mr. Speaker, as looks likely, have its detailed proposals ready for the June summit, surely the Prime Minister can't be going to Brussels without anything to negotiate on. So is she going to seek a delay to that summit while the government decides what its position actually is?
Perhaps I could just help the right honourable gentleman. The June European Council is not a summit about the Brexit negotiations. There will be many issues that the European Union leaders will be discussing at the June European Summit, including the important issue of sanctions against Russia. I will be pressing to ensure that we maintain sanctions against Russia because the Minsk agreements have not been put in place. And indeed, I think there are some areas where we should be enhancing that sanctions regime. He says that my right honourable friend, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, said that the white paper will be published in July, and that's different from what I've just said. I have to say to him, after the June European Council is July. But if he wants to talk about differences of opinion, I'll tell him what division really is. It's Labour members. It's all very well the Deputy Leader pointing like that. Division is members of the Labour Party circulating instruction manuals on how to deselect all the Labour MPs sitting behind it.
Mr. Speaker, you've got to face the fact there may now be a meltdown. Mr. Speaker, they're not actually my words, but those of the Foreign Secretary, even as his fellow cabinet ministers are preparing people for the government's negotiations, which he clearly thinks are going to end in disaster. And last week, he also took aim at the Treasury, who's sitting absolutely next to him, calling them the heart of Remain. He criticised them, saying what they don't want is friction at the borders. What they don't want any disruption to the economy. So does the Prime Minister back the Foreign Secretary in wanting more friction and more disruption to the economy?
Yes or no? Let's talk about the positions on this issue. Labour said they wanted to do new trade deals. Labour said they wanted to do new...
Order. I want to hear both the questions and the answers. And as the record shows... I don't require any assistance in this matter. As the record shows, that will always happen, however long it takes. And there's a lot of noise and much gesticulation from members on both sides of the House. But I want to hear the questions and I want to hear the answers. The Prime Minister, we're grateful.
Because the honourable member for Bolsover is absolutely right. We're in government, not Labour. And we've set out our position on the border. But what we see is a Labour Party that said it wanted to do trade deals and now wants to be in a customs union that will stop that. They said they wanted to control our borders and now they want free movement. They said they would respect the referendum and now they won't rule out a second referendum. And that's the difference between us. The Conservative Party in government are going to deliver on the will of the British people.
Mr. Speaker, in the parallel universe inhabited by the Foreign Secretary, you're apparently not respecting the referendum result unless you want friction at the borders and disruption of the economy. Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet is divided and they're briefing against each other. They're even whispering during Prime Minister's question time. And the Prime Minister has been left with no white paper on which to negotiate, Last week, the transition period was delayed by a year in the space of 24 hours. And yesterday, a deal with her backbenchers was reneged on within hours. Meanwhile, the economy is weakening. Industries increasingly alarmed at the sheer ineptitude of her government. How much more damage is the Prime Minister going to do to this country before she realises the important thing is to get a deal for the people of this country, not one to appease the clashing giant egos of her cabinet?
It's the Labour Party and opposition that are trying to frustrate Brexit. It's the Labour Party that are trying to stop us getting a deal for the British people. This government will deliver on Brexit. This government will deliver a Brexit for jobs. This government will deliver a Brexit that is good for Britain.
U.S. President Donald Trump's meeting with North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has continued to be a subject of discussion, with some criticizing Trump's commendation of Kim's Jong, while some see the meeting as a good step towards peace in the region. Meanwhile, North Korea's defectors have criticized President Trump for going back on his promise of taking on Kim over the human rights policy of the regime.
At the U.S.-North Korea summit, President Trump was effusive in his praise of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, calling him a terrific person and a great leader, and telling VOA's Greta Van Susteren that he cares greatly about the welfare of the people.
He loves his people, not that I'm surprised by that, but he loves his people, and I think that we have the start of an amazing deal.
Trump's embrace of Kim in pursuit of denuclearization has left North Korean defectors and human rights advocates like Jung Kwon-il feeling abandoned. Jung was among a group of defectors that met with the president in the White House after his State of the Union address, where he called the Kim government a depraved and cruel dictatorship. Jung said Trump led the group to believe that he would confront the leadership in Pyongyang about the widespread abuses in the country. Now he feels let down.
I was really disappointed. We trusted this big country, the United States, and we've been working on North Korean human rights issues together until now. But now I'm not sure if we can work together in the future.
In North Korea, poverty is widespread, travel within the country restricted, outside information prohibited, and any dissent is brutally suppressed. Kim Young-hwa, a defector who is part of a group that uses the ocean current to send rice to the impoverished North, had also come to believe that Trump was committed to end Kim's repressive rule. But at the summit, he said Trump strengthened Kim's hold on power.
Trump, the leader of the whole world, acknowledging that Kim Jong-un is a smart and talented guy, is like stabbing the heart of the North Korean resident.
These defectors turned to Trump in part because South Korea had already embraced an engagement strategy with North Korea. They say officials in Seoul are pressuring them to stop sending banned information into the North that could hamper cooperation efforts underway. While Trump said he did talk about human rights with Kim, Human Rights Watch criticized the president for leaving it out of the final declaration and saying that the North Korean people were the big losers from the Singapore summit.
The African community in Bronx, New York, has protested the continued cover-up of the death of one Mokhtar Daniola, a Guinean immigrant who died beneath the wheels of a garbage truck in the city. The victim was said to have been an of the books worker for the trash hauling company. However, the company has denied any wrongdoing.
21-year-old Mukhtar Diallo lived with his family not far from here. For a year and a half, he worked in this New York City neighborhood and others, picking up trash from the businesses. The Bronx has one of the largest concentrations of Africans in the country. The cover-up of the death of Mukhtar Diallo has outraged the immigrant community, and they wonder why more hasn't been done to hold the company accountable.
The sentiment is that if it was any other person, this would not happen, that he would not be reported as homeless, and that for the most part, the African community has been seen to be timid that we don't come out when issues happen, when injustice happen to our community. So we're here to say to the world that we're here, we're strong, and we're going to fight against any injustice against our community.
On June 13th, African community groups and labor advocates held a rally on the steps of the Supreme Courthouse in the Bronx, one of New York's 5 boroughs.
I'm a mother of 3. I have siblings, I have cousins, and I'm like, if this company get away with it, then tomorrow it could be my own child or even my neighbor's child. This is not right.
Who are we? Africans! Who are we? Africans! No justice! No peace!
They're calling on city officials to yank the license of Sanitation Salvage. But, so far, the company is still in business and has not been sanctioned for either death.
Who is it that you have to kill to lose your license in this city? And we know that the only reason that this has been allowed to go on as long as it has is because our community is seen as disposable. Our community is seen as a community that can be thrown to the curb without consequences. Well, we won't stand for it anymore.
A representative for Sanitation Salvage sent VOA a statement saying that the company is saddened by these tragic accidents and is committed to safety and being a good neighbor. The New York Police Department said it investigated Mukhtar Diallo's death and found that no criminal charges were warranted. The second death involving the company took place in April, and police said they're investigating. The New York agency that licenses garbage companies also has an open investigation into Sanitation Salvage.
Who says she is the mother of Abubakar Shekau, the leader of the terrorist group Boko Haram, has spoken of her trauma and troubles following her son's terrorist activities.
Driving west from the city of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, the roads get narrower as the towns get smaller. After 3 hours, VOA ends up here, in a village called Shekau, to meet this woman, Falmata Abubakar. She says she is the mother of this man, Nigeria's most wanted terrorist, Abubakar Shekau, the leader of Boko Haram. Village elders and community leaders confirm that she is the woman who here gave birth to Shekau, whose father was a local district imam. Falmata says she had never spoken to journalists before VOA approached her, and she does not know where her son is hiding.
I don't know now if he's dead or alive. I don't know. It's only God who knows. For 15 years, I haven't seen him.
Shekau looks like many communities in this part of Nigeria. People here say they often hide that they are from Abubakar Shekau's hometown because others may fear they have Boko Haram connections. Falmata says her son left Shekau as a boy to continue his Islamic studies in Maiduguri, a center of religious studies for hundreds of years. Shekau was an Almajiri, just like these boys. Almajiri are sent off by their parents to study the Quran in a school called a Sangaya, like this one. A teacher watches them as they learn to memorize the entire Quran. Almajiri beg on the streets for food, and it is believed that Shekau did the same. At some point in his studies, Shekau, according to his mother, met this man, Mohammed Yusuf, the founder of Boko Haram, who condemned Western education as sinful. Famata says her son was brainwashed.
Since Shekau met Mohammed Yusuf, I didn't see him again. Yes, he's my son, and every mother loves her son, but we have different characters. He brought a lot of problems to many people. Where can I meet him to tell him that these things he is doing are very bad? He brought many problems to many people, but I am praying for God to show him the good way.
Her son, Shekau, is accused of leading an insurgency that has killed more than 30,000 people in northeastern Nigeria and the Lake Chad region. Destroying schools is at the heart of Boko Haram's manifesto, and the group has attacked more than 1,400 schools like this one, the first primary school in northeastern Nigeria. Boko Haram fighters killed the principal and secretary. In 2014, Boko Haram invaded this school and killed 59 students. In February of this year, the sect kidnapped more than 100 students from here, the Dapchi Girls Secondary School. The insurgents returned the students a month later, but held on to one of them, Leah Sharibu, reportedly because she refused to convert to Islam in exchange for her freedom. Her mother, Rebecca, and her brother say they feel in their hearts that Leah is still alive. It's the 2014 abduction of the Chibok girls from their secondary school that brought Boko Haram into the international spotlight for unprecedented condemnation. The Bring Back Our Girls activists are still demanding the freedom of at least 100 Chibok girls, including Dorcas Yakubu, who turned 20 years old this week, marking her birthday while in Boko Haram captivity. In 2016, Dorcas appeared in a proof-of-life video released by the terrorists. Falmata has also been affected by the insurgency. She says she can never curse her son, but he has become someone that she doesn't even recognize anymore.
He just took his own character and went away. This is not the character I gave him. I don't know what this type of behavior is. It's only God who knows.
And as the ongoing World Cup, the concerns have continued to mount over the threat of racism and violence in Russia. Fans traveling from around the world are worried as there is a record of racism and violence in Russian football.
Muscovites might have a steely reputation, but a bit of Latin rhythm soon breaks the ice. Tango classes, the traditional dance from Argentina, are booming in the Russian capital.
It's about taking your time, a philosophy of communication, a philosophy of trust.
Echoes, perhaps, of the skills needed on the pitch. Hundreds of thousands of fans are expected to travel from South America to watch the World Cup.
We are waiting for them all and love them. We look forward to seeing their hot emotions.
This Moscow restaurant will host the fan base Argentina House. Among the choices, steak, corn cakes and crepes with caramel sauce. The chef says there's only one question on fans' minds.
The real question is, what will Lionel Messi do in this World Cup?
The World Cup is a festival of global cultures as well as football, but diversity isn't always welcomed. World Cup organizer FIFA fined Russia's football union $30,000 last month after its fans aimed racist chants at black players in a match against France, an amount labelled pitiful by anti-racism campaigners.
We see far-right nationalists active inside football stadiums. We see overt acts of racism that have been displayed inside stadiums, quite rife. So Russian football, for many people, has been a no-go area.
Aziz Kamara migrated to St. Petersburg from Mali and plays for local football team FC Maxima. He believes fans have little to fear.
Before I came to Russia, I heard a lot of people talking about racism here. They were telling me this is still a very closed country and a hard one to live in. When I came here, I saw that's the opposite. I was welcomed here.
Others are more cautious. Black England defender Danny Rose has told his parents not to travel to Russia over racism fears. Meanwhile, British lawmakers have warned fans against overt displays of the English flag, fearing an echo of the violence between England and Russia fans in France in 2016. Authorities warn they will not tolerate racism or hooliganism, and most Russians say they are looking forward to welcoming so many different cultures to their country.
And with that report, we conclude the news roundup for this week. Thank you for being part of the program. I am Tunde Alabi. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye. Regardless resident status abroad, living outside the shores of one's homeland can really be challenging and sometimes very difficult. Let's be sincere, to keep pace with artists from the host country abroad can really be difficult. Here on Dialogue in Diaspora, we give you every information, every news, every current issue you need to know on happenings outside the UK. Dialogue in Diaspora is your link between the world and the United Kingdom. It's your window to Africa development. Here, live on BEN Television.